TalkTV. It's just after 7:20 on Sunday, September the 18th. Thank you very much indeed for your company. Thank you to Nathan Watkins. Good morning to you for your message, your very nice message this morning. This is from ST Maxwell. We've been talking about the coverage around the world and around Europe. I was speaking to a friend actually in Belgium last night, and he said that the coverage in Belgium has been exemplary and is wall to wall. This is quite interesting though. This is from ST Maxwell saying, David, I'm a royalist, but it's amazing to see the difference in coverage between the UK and Spain. No one is talking about it in Spain, even though there are many expats. That, I don't know what that means really in terms of, but I assume that's the editorial stance. I'm assuming, Renee, I don't know, but I think the King and Queen of Spain are all coming to the funeral.
They are coming.
I thought they were.
And maybe it's because in Spain, obviously, they got rid of their monarchy, then they have a monarchy, there's a little bit of scandal around it, so maybe they don't want to boost a monarchy.
That's a brilliant point. So it may be a political decision. Yes, very, very good indeed. Well, Emma Wolf joins us this morning to review the papers. Good morning to you. Haven't seen you for ages.
Well, you know, just been working.
You've been busy?
No, not really.
Oh, right. Well, it's lovely to see you.
Lovely to be here.
So, obviously, this is the last day now of Majesty lying in state. This has been, I've been here a week, and it's been really an extraordinary week.
It really has. And I think, actually, I think lots of us are ready now. I think the Queen, it feels as though we are now ready to let her rest in peace. I think she has done her service up to the very end. A lot of people have been touched by this. The celebrations and the commemorations have been amazing. But to me, it's getting to the point now where we are almost, it's becoming a little bit of a circus, and I say that with respect to the Queen. I feel, in the middle of London, you know, in central London, I feel that it's time now. It's time to put...
So it's so interesting you say that. I had exactly the same thought this morning, but I didn't have it yesterday. So it feels that this has run its natural course, because I wondered whether we should allow the Queen to lie in state for longer to allow more people to see her. But actually, I've come round to the view that they got it absolutely right. I think 4 days was the right amount.
I think so too. I don't think it could go on anymore. I think it's time for everybody to be able to say goodbye properly and move on.
And not least the family.
And the family, exactly.
I mean, really, we were talking about this earlier, Renee and I, but for the King, I mean, really, he's had quite a week.
I know, and I think we also have to be mindful that King Charles lost his father last year, and we were talking about this just previously, about whatever age you are, you're never ready. King Charles has not just lost the Queen, he's lost his mum. He's lost his father last year, you know, and you think, well, he's in his 70s. No, you're still not ready to lose your...
But you're still a child. You're still a child. It doesn't matter what age you are.
Exactly, and because she's such a huge national figure, we think of her as somehow separate or distinct or something, but actually for him and for all of the family, they've lost their mum or their grandmother or their aunt or whatever. So I think we need to be mindful of that, and you're right. King Charles and the Queen Consort have put in a shift, as they say. They really have. For people in their 70s, they have been, I mean, we know what it's like getting up at 4 in the morning. When you are in your 70s and they are travelling and they've been flying all over the place, and hours of standing in queues, shaking hands with people, yeah.
But also, I was so struck by...
Plus the emotional toll.
Yes, the emotional toll, but the vigil of the princes, and then the King pops up in the queue again.
Yeah.
And I thought, crikey, you really do know how to work.
And they're doing it all in the public eye. Yeah. None of this has been private for them, so they have to do all of that and keep that stiff upper lip as best they can with a camera on them wherever they go.
And that's why the private mourning we spoke about yesterday, I think it's so important for them. Once the state funeral is over, and the rest of us go back to normal life and politics and all the rest of it, that they have time as a family to actually grieve.
Yeah, and just be alone for a bit, you know, just not be on show. Because they are on show, aren't they?
And it's part of the process. We all know that organising a funeral, though this has obviously been organised for many years, but organising a funeral, going through those processes, even dealing with wills and, you know, property and all of that kind of stuff is part of the process. But then at some stage, it hits you later. I mean, I lost my father 3 years ago, and, you know, there are moments when you suddenly remember them that isn't necessarily, you know, a week later or 2 weeks later or a month later. There are moments, so I think that'll, you know, they do need... There are triggers, yeah, and I think the family do need just a quiet time of reflection. He's just become king as well after, you know, so many decades in waiting.
And that's bittersweet, because he always wanted to be king, but he didn't want his mum to die.
Yeah, there was always going to be a price to pay for that.
Very sad. So let's move to your first paper, which is the Telegraph, and the headline there, Together for Granny.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not really into the whole calling her Granny thing, but that's just because I think, you know, we don't say mummy in public. But anyway, this is a really lovely article in the Telegraph. I thought, of all the things I've read lately, this was a beautiful piece about just the detail of this is about the grandchildren's vigil. So the 8 of them stood vigil last night around the coffin. But it's sort of the detail about the military uniforms that Harry, finally, that he was allowed to wear, which I think is absolutely right. He served for his country. I thought it was humiliating earlier in the week when he was pictured in morning suit and the others were all in their military uniform. I think it's absolutely right that Harry was in his military uniform last night. And the 2 of them, Harry and William, and then the 6 other grandchildren. It's got lovely detail about, the fact that there's a 30-year age span between the eldest at 44 and the youngest at 14.
Yeah.
The Countess of Wessex watching her little children, 14 and 18, and feeling anxious for them, because that's quite something at 14 and 18.
She looked very, very worried.
You could, for them, not only their grief, but also just being in the public eye.
Yeah.
Those 2, Viscount Seven. He's 14 years old. He's not as used to being really front and centre the way that Harry and William.
No, not at all. In fact, many people didn't know who he was. And the same I would say of Lady Mountbatten Windsor, who is only 18. But the 2 children behaved in an exemplary manner, I thought. And actually, the pomp, the circumstance, the way they'd rehearsed it clearly came across. Yeah. And then, as you rightly say...
And their cousins, the closeness of them as cousins.
Well, I was going to say exactly the same. And you can see, actually, I watched Peter Phillips's face yesterday, and it's a grief-stricken face.
Yeah.
I think they all are. I mean, I really do think they all are. I looked at Zara as she was standing there, and you actually felt her pain. I felt her pain. I think you could see it on all of them. And I agree with you. To watch that 14-year-old hold himself together for 15 minutes, which must have felt like 15 hours. That must have felt like such a long time to actually just stand there still with members of the public, let's not forget, filing past, looking at them.
Well, I think it's extraordinary, isn't it? And we said this yesterday about the Vigil of the Princes, but if you've queued up all that time to go and pay your respects, and suddenly you get all the grandchildren there as well, that is something you will never see again.
It is. It's a real kind of added, I hate to say it, but it's an added bonus to be there, to enter to Westminster Hall at a moment of the Vigil is a very, very special moment.
It really is. So in terms of that, and I was talking about this, the fact is Princess Eugenie and Beatrice talking about the softer side of the Queen, the tears, the laughter, the hugs,
their memories.
The raspberries.
Exactly. It was lovely to see they issued a sort of joint statement. It's lovely to remember that they're sisters and they're really close, because we hear so much about, the rift between Harry and William and the problems within the royal family at that level. But it's lovely to hear about the others, to hear about their closeness.
And I still maintain that this picture here on the front page, I think, is rather beautiful.
Cheers.
Yes. If it's, and I really do hope that this is real and that this will bring them back together. I mean, yes, they are appearing in public, but I mean, we've had so much gossip. We don't know how that rift has been healed, and I think over the next few months it is going to play out. Whether Harry's memoir comes out by the end of November as trailed. That is going to be difficult. When they go back to California, we'll see what happens. But it's lovely to see that they are able to take a full part in it, I think.
Well, it's quite interesting. I think even the King, obviously he extended the olive branch, didn't he? He made it very clear that obviously William was a working royal and that Harry and Meghan had chosen a new life abroad, and he wished them well with that. And again, that was a beautiful piece of phrasing from the King, I thought.
Yes, but I also think it's difficult to leave them out of things, to allegedly uninvite them to things.
Oh, yes.
It is very, very difficult, and clearly the problem is senior royals have no real right of reply. They can't hit back and say, well, that Netflix documentary is wrong, that interview is wrong. So they I think Charles and William are in a difficult position as well.
So you're talking about the uninviting to this state reception
which is happening today, which apparently, up to 2,000 guests, global leaders, world leaders, all sorts of figures have been invited to. And I don't know, but apparently the Telegraph are reporting that Harry and Meghan are now not being...
Because they're not working
invited
royals.
to attend. Yeah.
Which was their choice.
I agree.
Yeah, it just seems like a lot of guests and then not to include them. You can imagine
if they're not working royals, and if this is a diplomatic reception, which is essentially what it is, then surely the case stands, doesn't it?
He's still the son, he's still the grandson.
I know. I totally understand. Right, let's have a look at the Express then. And the headline there.
Yeah, so the Sunday Express has this headline about honouring the Queen with ER Day, and they're calling for a national day, which I think we'll have anyway, to be honest. I think we'll always remember, was it September the 8th?
September the
Yeah.
8th.
Yeah, I think we'll always probably, as a country, mark her passing. But they're calling for a national day, ER Day, which I assume would be a sort of general bank holiday, and also a permanent statue on the 4th plinth in Trafalgar Square.
Yeah, so in terms of bank holidays, I'm all in favour. We don't have as many as the rest of Europe, and so any holiday, but also actually the Queen, for all of us, has paid enormous service to this country, and I think we should remember her. The question is, when would that bank holiday fall? I still like Boris Johnson saying Elizabeth the Great. I think that's...
I like it too,
I
actually.
really like that. What was the other one? It was Elizabeth the Good.
No, I like Elizabeth the Great.
I like Elizabeth the Great. Any particular view?
I like Queen Elizabeth II. There's no need to say that she's great. She's clearly great. I mean, tomorrow's funeral is going to be the biggest funeral in the world for what, a century? I mean, it just, the magnitude of the event is absolutely beyond words.
And we'll come on to that and the security implications in a minute. But just in terms of the 4th plinth, and they've been eyeing this up.
But a proper statue, not one of these sort of strange modern things where it's just a lump of molten rock.
But you see, my concern with that is it the right place in London? Because she would be overshadowed by Nelson. There are other dignitaries there. Isn't there a better place?
She would be almost down the Mall from Buckingham Palace, wouldn't she?
I do like, I think you put up, didn't you, a picture of her on a horse, trotting, and it was a magnificent...
That would be, I can see that.
Beautiful.
Something like that. I think Trafalgar Square might be a place for it. We do have that empty plinth, and it does have, it does host all sorts of odd things.
Lollipops.
I mean, I'm sure there will be other commemorations all over the country, in fact. But yeah, I mean, it's an idea.
It would be really rather special, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I like that. Observer then, this is, you're not going to talk politics, are you? Something completely different.
If we have a moment, I was amazed to think that we are actually, of course the Observer are doing this, they are breaking ranks and they are giving half their front page, or a third of their front page, to politics as normal. So they're saying that after Tuesday, normal politics will return, and that Truss, I've forgotten her name because she was only Prime Minister for 2 days.
Well, she's also had a heck of a week.
She has. I think she's had a very gentle introduction, and this is what they're saying. She faces a bruising return to the political fray after the funeral. I mean, a death on this magnitude is not bad for a new Prime Minister who is facing political and economic, Armageddon when she first comes in. She had barely 2 days of this crisis. She'd sort of announced her energy bills package, and then we went into national mourning. And you can't really go wrong as long as you wear black and you're respectful. You can't really go wrong. But it's all going to start up again from Tuesday, Wednesday. Straight after the funeral, she flies off to the UN General Assembly. We then have, more announcements about the energy stuff, and then a mini budget on Friday.
Yes, and of course you see some other commentators have written about the fact that actually tonight's state drinks party, or the reception that's taking place, is very good for Liz Truss, because of course she would never be in a situation where she meets so many world leaders all in one go.
So she's being launched, really. It's almost like her coming out party, isn't it?
Well, it is really, and so she'll be able to work that room to say hello to all of those world leaders. And again, that's unprecedented. So maybe going back to the Observer's point, maybe she's had quite a cushy ride.
I think she's had a gentle introduction, and I think that actually she's facing now this economic, they're saying political and economic baptism of fire, which we kept saying beforehand. Before the Queen died, we kept saying she's got a baptism of fire. She comes into a country really in crisis. We're heading into winter. The economy is in, our finances are in tatters, and now she's going to have to start picking up the pieces. And I think pretty quickly Westminster will return to Punch and Judy politics.
Well, it's extraordinary, isn't it, how we've forgotten there is an energy crisis. The fact is people are really struggling. I know we've been in a period of mourning. I actually tweeted yesterday, I live in a very rural property, so I have to have heating oil. I spent £1,200 and I got 3 blobs on my heating oil going.
I love that you call them blobs.
Well, but there's a reason.
How long does that last?
Well, I hope that will get me to Christmas.
1,200. And is that normal? What would you normally pay?
No, it would normally 500.
See, that's ludicrous.
But you see, so there is no help for people with oil. But the government knows that these kind of things have to happen. And someone said to me, well, why don't you use gas? Well, you can't in the country. There isn't any gas.
Just run your pipeline.
Well, exactly, I'll go and dig one. And so for rural communities, whilst it's been very helpful saying that with electricity and gas they will help you, but for those rural communities, and many of them are elderly.
And people on prepayment meters who are definitely unfortunately, the poorest and most vulnerable.
Absolutely.
They're not getting help. And this relentless issue about the standing charges, which are very, very high. So even when you're cutting back, you're really trying to economise. You're not actually able to cut back.
So when do you think this will start? So obviously with the state funeral tomorrow being Monday, you think it will be back from Tuesday?
I think things are going to kick off again. Because,
I do.
Or maybe Wednesday when she comes back from the UN, and then Wednesday, Thursday. Yeah,
But you see, then we've got this ridiculous scenario if they all break again for party conference.
This is why I can do some work.
Yeah, this is why I don't think we should have the conferences, because I think that I don't think most people actually even realise what dire straits we are in, and we are in dire straits. We are heading for recession straight depression. It's going to get much worse than it is. She needs to be here. They all need to be here.
The pound's at its weakest against the euro that we've ever seen.
Absolutely. Well, the weakest anywhere that we've ever seen against the dollar. So we need them here, and it's going to start Tuesday. It has to start Tuesday. Yeah. They have to roll up their sleeves and get stuck.
So in terms of the party conferences, they start very soon indeed. I think the Conservative one's about the 2nd of October or there.
I think Labour kicks off
Labour's first. Yeah. But again, it seems to me that they're never there. And throughout the summer when we were doing this show, I was saying, where is the leadership? Where are they?
But even before that, David, for the previous 6 months, they were just arguing, especially, the party in power, were just arguing amongst themselves about their leader, whether or not he had some cheese and wine in a birthday cake. So I don't think we've had any political leadership or any... This is why we're in the mess we're in, as well as locking down the economy for 2 years.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And so therefore, do you think it would be valid to say we need to not have party conference?
I don't think. Because I think anyway the conferences, what are they? 3 days, and probably the first day will be everybody paying tribute, to Her Majesty, which is fair enough. But we don't need that. We do have that in Parliament, and I'm. Yeah.
And also,
cut it right back.
Indeed. And the thing about conferences, and obviously I wear a political hat. We spoke a lot about our particular conference and whether that should go ahead. Ours is only a short one. It's 1 day. I think many of the others could be 1 day.
I think the Lib Dems was cancelled because it was just it was last week. And that's difficult for them because they kind of rely on their conference to actually publicise a few.
But I don't see why each of those conferences couldn't be 2 days at the weekend.
I was just going to say, do it at a weekend. Why does it have to be in the time that we pay them to be sorting out the mess that we're living in?
It doesn't. But I think it's a real problem, and I'm not sure the public will view that very well, seeing all the politicians going off. And we know that a lot of the business is done in the bars and the restaurants after conference itself, and it's a bit of a jolly.
Yeah, exactly.
And it feels wrong.
If they want to discuss things, let them discuss it in the House of Parliament where we need them to be,
where we pay them to
and
be.
making decisions.
And look, they're not there on a Friday, are they? Because they go back on Friday afternoon to their constituencies. So let them do it Friday, Saturday, Sunday. That's the right idea, David.
I think so too. I'm glad we've sorted that.
Call for conferences to be cancelled.
I'm glad we've solved that problem. And then your final paper, what have you got? You've got the Mail. Have you?
Yeah, well, the Mail. Just to return to the big story, of course, which is resplendent in uniform, and it just shows. It shows Prince of Wales and the Duke of Sussex again.
Do you do that as well, where you have to think about what is their actual title?
And everybody's shifted. Everybody's moved up a gear.
Because I keep saying William and then thinking, oh no, Prince of Wales. Yeah.
And I said Wills the other day, and I thought, how disrespectful to the second in line.
Yes, it's extraordinary, isn't it?
Well, he's first in line now, isn't he?
He's first in line, yeah.
Gosh, that'll be something.
So, and
then the coronation, not until next year, which is interesting, and that'll just be exciting.
Well, so my theory on that is there's a general election in 24, isn't there? So it has to be next year.
23.
So you've got to, again, planning-wise, they can't really do it in 24 because we'll be in the middle of an electoral cycle.
Yeah.
And therefore, the only time to do it, you can't do it this year. So it has to be next year.
I kind of assumed when the Queen died that a coronation happened quite quickly. And actually, then I found out, usually they do leave a period of grace, and it almost feels as though, so I suppose that proclamation was really quite important. Because it really did put the king in power. Yes. Otherwise, if he hasn't been crowned, is he really king? Do we have, that limbo?
So, and that's really interesting. I think we spoke about this yesterday, about the orb, the sceptre, and the imperial crown are all held until the coronation.
Yeah.
So interesting.
It's so
And the Scottish crown on the top of the coffin, and it's the oldest royal crown in the world.
I think what will be really interesting is the coronation will be next year. If we really are in the deepest, darkest recession we've seen for 100 years, how are people going to feel about pomp and circumstances, money being spent on a coronation? I'm a monarchist. I love it all, and I think we should always do it. But there will be that to consider as well.
There will. I'd argue that in terms of inward investment into the
I agree.
United Kingdom and people coming here and spending a lot of money, I'd probably crack on.
I agree, but I know when I go to lunch with my son today, he won't. He's younger. He won't agree.
Well, and so interestingly, later on in this programme, I'm talking to two younger people about their views of the monarchy, because I'm really struck that it does seem to be dependent on how old you are as to how you feel about the monarchy. I mean, I'm of a certain age where I'm a true monarchist, and yet I was talking to people in their 30s who are really want to be Republicans.
Yes.
And then I'm interested to know what happens when you become younger than that. And it seems to be the reverse again.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's age. I've got friends of all ages who feel really differently about the monarchy, and some of them really do feel that the royal family is an absolute waste of money, waste of space, all of that. It is amazing when you think these people are still living in palaces, in such ease and luxury. But then they give us this amazing heritage that this country has.
And that's the point. And no other country. It is, and also
Very
that's
special.
what I think all of my friends who live in other countries are so struck by is actually and I've had so many texts from people saying, you lot do this really well.
Yeah.
But that's because the mechanism of royalty and monarchy and parliamentary procedure is actually bigger than any one of us. Yeah. It doesn't it? It goes back hundreds and hundreds of years.
Yes, and you know what? There is this move that people want to ignore history, but actually it makes us what we are.
It is. And and tomorrow, where will you be? Will you be going?
No. No, I mean, I think that these long queues. I did want to go, but I just felt that the queues with a toddler, 30 hours or however many hours, it would be really, really difficult. So no, we'll definitely watch in the morning to the.
I mean, it will be unparalleled. I mean, there aren't
amazing.
enough.
It's a moment in history,
enough
isn't
words
it?
on it.
I still remember the day I went to see. I stood on the Mall with my little sister. We were teenage girls, and we watched Diana's funeral cortege go by, and that was a really, really special day.
Yeah.
So I think one wants to feel part of it.
And actually, we'll be talking about the route. We'll be showing you the map of the route in just a bit as well. But Emma, thank you so much for coming in and talking us through the paper. Always lovely to see you. After the break, we will be going taking your calls, your thoughts, your messages. This is Talk TV. We're broadcasting live from the Talk Radio studios.